shell. Cause the way the real wealth is being real with self. But I haven't seen the glory of the coming of the left. I can't do it by myself, so I'm asking for help. It's time to switch it up, put the hip shit on the shelf. Cause the way the real wealth is being real with self. But I haven't seen the glory of the coming of the left. I can't do it by myself, so I'm asking for help. Money, money, money. All you have is money. I know you like Kanye West says, having money is not everything, not having it is. Oh, Deuteronomy 8:18 says God gives us the ability to create wealth. No, it's the love of money that's wrong. You don't like money so much, right? You have to go to work for it, not do it about I'm just trying to leave a legacy for money. Not everything, but when you got it, you can do some cool stuff. Now, your host for Talking Money in the Morning, financial health mentor to the working class, H Cortez.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Talking Money in the Morning Live with your main man, H Cortez, the one and only financial health mentor to the working class, where I do my absolute best to bring practical yet proven wealth building strategies to working class men and women all over this great nation of ours. It is truly an honor, privilege, and a blessing, guys, to come to you guys each and every morning and see some of the same faces over and over. That tells me that you believe that what I say and the information that I present has some value. So I certainly appreciate that. Guys, do me a huge favor. If you're tuning into YouTube, then I want you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And then I want you to grab the link to this live stream and share it on your favorite social media platform. I don't care if that is LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, wherever you like to share a link, share that link for me. We've got to start opening the dialogue about the issues that we have in our communities. In particular, my lane is wealth creation, wealth generation, legacy building. But we need conversations in a lot of different fronts, but I stick to my lane, right? And then for those of you who are checking us out on Facebook, then do the same thing. Go ahead and if you haven't already, follow the feed so that you continue to get these notifications every morning that we go live. Then please do that. And then share the stream on your wall, guys. My new motto for myself going into 2017 is family over everything, ownership over everything else. And I want that model to be adopted by Black people all over the world. Family over everything, ownership over everything else. We have to focus on becoming owners and producers and put a lot less focus on being mass consumers. So share the stream, invite some friends to come take a listen at what it is that we are talking about in this particular discussion. I've got a few stats that I'm going to read to you guys, and we're going to get out of here a little bit early because I'm still covering the basketball tournament. This is day 4. This is the last day, but I got to get over to the gym relatively early this morning. So this may be a little bit of an abbreviated show, but I want to give you some stats that I was just looking up about this particular topic. So appreciate you guys for sharing the stream. I see some of you guys have already shared it. Appreciate that. So without further ado, let's get right down to it, guys. I notice we get new people tuning in every morning, and just in case you stumbled upon this show on accident, I like to let you know exactly what you're in for, man, in case you want to exit stage left. This show is for risers and grinders only, man. If you're not ready to get up and get out and get something, shame on you, man. But if you are, this is your show. If you are the type of person that says, you know what, I need to make some changes in my life, and I need to start my day with some positivity, this is your show, man. If you have a deep concern for our community and how we can rebuild it, how we can gentrify our own community, right? Because that's what I'm going to do, man. When I build my billion, I'm going to go in just like other coaches do into my own neighborhood, buy it up, transform that thing, and put the people in there that I want to be in there. So if that's the kind of thought process you have, then this is your show. If you're the type of person that understands the power of ownership, you understand the power of building a legacy, this is your show. If you're the type of person who, like me, every night I go to bed, I think to myself, what am I going to do tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, to ensure that my children's 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 children are proud to bear my name? Then this show is for you. Because You might have the discipline to build wealth. You might have the desire to build wealth. You might be hungry enough to build wealth, but you don't have a strategy, game plan. You might need a partner, a mentor, a guide, a teacher. You might need to be immersed in a community of people who are aspiring to do the same things. They're going to lift you up, build you, prop you up, pull you, push you, prod you to get you to those goals. Then this is your show, because that's what we do every day. And one thing that I love more about me giving this content is I love the encouragement and the upliftment and the networking that goes on in the feed on Facebook of these shows as well. So if that's you, this is your show, my friend. Now, on the other hand, who is this show not for, right? This show is not for the pessimist, right? This show is not for the people who have a problem with money. If you don't like the fact that I just said money 10 times in the last 12 seconds, this ain't your show, man. If you're the type of person who has that weird relationship with money where you think money is evil, capitalism is a dirty word, wealthy people are jerks, this ain't your show, man. Because what you have to understand is when you have that weird relationship with money, you will always repel money away from you. If you think wealthy people are jerks, your subconscious mind will never allow you to become something you despise. I'm gonna say that again. Your subconscious mind would never allow you to become something you despise. So on one hand, you despise wealthy people. On the other hand, you claim you want to be wealthy. It's never going to work until you fix that relationship with money. Money ain't everything, but not having money is, like Kanye West would say, right? Having money is not everything. Not having it is. Who thinks about money more, poor people or wealthy people? Poor people, because money is involved in every single decision we make. Wealthy people don't have to decide where they're going to eat because they have to think about the budget. We have to think about money every decision that we make when we're trying to overcome poverty. So if that's you, this ain't your show. You can exit stage left. But I'm going to tell you, like I tell you every morning, if you've never seen a future billionaire before, right, then I want you to take a screenshot and I want you to hold me to it and watch me work. As I promise you this, it's going down in 2017. I don't know about y'all, but it's going down in 2017, right? So you can exit stage left and we won't hold anything against you. And you can root for me or you can root against me. Don't make me know, never mind. I encourage you to get in the game with me because there's not a single billionaire on the planet who has not helped to create other billionaires, other mega millionaires, other deca millionaires, other millionaires, and are responsible for six-figure households through the jobs that we produce. So that's where I'm going in 2017. You can come along for the ride or you can sit on the sideline if you want. Yeah, we need it for everything. Liam says we need money for everything. It's not everything, but it's the resource that we have to use to acquire everything that we need when we don't own, right? Because I'm gonna challenge you on that, Liam. When we own, then we don't need it. When we own, we don't need it. And when I say own, I'm talking about owning land, raw land, because where does everything we need come from? It comes from raw land, right? It comes from raw land. So when I have enough raw land, I don't need money because everything that I need to sustain myself comes from that land. The food, the shelter, the raw materials for making my clothing, all of that. So let's get into it, guys. We're talking about OOE, FOE and OOE, family over everything, then ownership over everything else. Yesterday, we talked about that crazy law that they put in effect in Missouri, and I started to get on the ownership tip. So I thought I would just table that and come back today and talk about our need for ownership, guys. I don't know if we know as a people how little it costs to own land in this country. I don't know if we know how little it costs to own land in this country. And when I say land, I'm talking about land. See, they've got us focused on trying to own homes and trying to own stuff, cars and things. Guys, own the source from which all of that stuff comes from, right? If I'd have thought about this, what I'm talking about now, I would have gone and pulled some stats on this. But guys, I can probably go get 20, 30, 40 acres of raw land, owner finance, with maybe $2,000 down, maybe pay $100 a month over 15 years, and I own the land. So I'm gonna give you a scenario on how that works, because I know somebody. See, I keep telling you guys, I study wealthy people. I also study people who are aspiring to be wealthy. I can tell when I'm listening to somebody else who studies wealthy people by the moves that they're making, right? I listen to a guy he's actually a gardener. So some of you guys don't know I grow my own food and stuff like that. But he's a gardener, and he talked about needing to move his land. He wanted more land to grow more food and things of that nature. So he found a 20-acre plot of land. I forget the dollar amount that they wanted for the land. I'm gonna just tell you how we got to start thinking creatively. This is what he did to get the land. The owner was willing to finance the land. He put $1,000 down to get the land under contract, to take ownership, and then he was going to make payments on it. But because he knew the value of the land before he set out to purchase it, here's what he did. Tied the land up as an owner finance, put $1,000 down, and took ownership of the land. He then went onto the land. Because he knew the value of the land, he had the trees on the land cut down. He sold the trees for lumber, which not only gave him the revenue to buy the land outright, the 10 acres that he initially bought, he was also able to buy the other 10 acres. So for $1,000, he bought 20 acres worth of land. That's all of his own money he had invested in the deal. $1,000 for 20 acres of land. I don't know if y'all understand the power in that. He took $1,000 of his own money, owner financed 10 acres of raw land, in which case he would have to pay a couple $100 a month to the seller because it was owner finance. But before he even made more than 3 payments, he had a lumber company come in and estimate what it costs to have X amount of trees knocked down. And they bought the trees, bought the lumber from the land that he tied up with $1,000, made enough money from the seller of the trees to buy not only the 10 acres that he originally tied up, but buy the extra 10 acres. So he got the whole 20 acres of land for $1,000 of his own money. You got to understand the power of ownership. And when I say family over everything, when you start thinking about your family, you start thinking about your legacy, you start thinking about your children's 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 children, you start thinking differently about how you see the world. You start thinking differently about how you see opportunities. You start thinking differently about your unwillingness to sacrifice. Because I know without a shadow of a doubt, we can turn this whole thing on its head in one single generation, if one generation would be willing to sacrifice. Ask me how I know. Because as I continue to go through this book right here, The Millionaire Next Door, statistics say that 80% of today's millionaires are first generation wealthy. 80% of today's millionaires are first generation wealthy. So what that means is, if we all made those tough sacrifices in 24 years or less, we can have wealth to pass down to our descendants in a single generation. But here's the thing. If you haven't read that book, Millionaire Next Door, I want you to get it, and I want you to start looking at it and start looking at the studies that they did with real millionaires, not the studies or not what they show us real millionaires look like in Hollywood, because that's a joke. That's a joke. How else could so many wealthy people with supposed millionaires go broke over and over and over? Because they don't own nothing but junk. So what is wealth? Wealth is defined as this: what you own minus what you have. So I'm gonna read some stats from you. What you own minus what you have. 25% of African Americans, Black people, us, 25% of us have no assets at all. The rest of us who do have assets have more debt than we have assets. So we really don't have any assets either because we bought into the fake, almost curse. We bought into this fake American dream. We bought into this fake American dream. You guys realize there was a time where we'd have mortgage burning parties, and as a people, we would literally race to see who can pay their mortgage off first. Yeah, The Millionaire Next Door is the book. Now, I've been on this for way too long, but I'm getting through it now. I got a commitment to read 5 books a month starting January. And why did I pick the word 5 books, and where did number 5 comes from? Because billionaires devour at least 5 books a month. They used to have mortgage burning parties, and they would race one another to see who could pay their mortgage off first, right? So what that really meant while we were racing, that meant that we actually would live well below our means. So we would try to make it on less and less. So keeping up with the Joneses was actually not keeping up with the Joneses. It was more of keeping down with the Joneses. Because until we paid those mortgages off, we would live at the bare minimum. And that's how we compete. So instead of buying the new car, we would compete and say, how much life can I get out of this old beater? Because all the extra money needs to go to paying off the mortgage, because they understood that debt is slavery. They understood. So how do we get out of debt? How do we get out from under this bondage as quickly as possible? If I have to work 12, 14-hour days, I'm going to do that. If the children have to go to school with cardboards in their shoes, the children understand why they're going to school with cardboard in their shoes. So the children don't ask any questions about why I don't have the J's, the 4s, the 15s, the 23s. They understand the power of ownership. The children knew intrinsically that they had to get as much value as they could out of a single pair of jeans, because they knew we would go buy our children today. We go buy them a pair of jeans every time we get paid. You guys understand something, man? When we understood the power of ownership, we would buy 1 pair of jeans a year. And that 1 pair of jeans, 4 or 5 children would wear that 1 pair of jeans. So we seem to not be able to make 1 pair of jeans last more than a month. We would make 1 pair of jeans last 5 or 6 years with 4 or 5 children wearing those jeans, not just passing it down. I'm talking about wearing them. One kid wears it on Monday, the next kid wears it on Tuesday, the next kid wears it on Wednesday, the next kid wears it on Thursday, and then it goes back to the first kid who wore it on Monday, will wear it again on Friday. We've bought into this bogus American dream. That's why we don't own anything. We've got to get back to understanding ownership. We've got to get back to understanding the real meaning of family. Family over everything, ownership over everything else. Period. And when we start thinking like that, when we get to that place, that's when we can turn our communities around on a dime. When we start getting back to Big Mama's house is paid for. So if Big Mama's house is paid for, Big Mama has a 3-story, 5-bedroom, 4.5 bath, damn near mansion, right? But the first thing we do is, because we don't understand how to live under authority, we would run from Big Mama's house and go get us a $200,000 mortgage, and now we're in debt, and all Big Mama has been doing is fighting her entire life to come out from under bondage and teach you that. But the Joneses say, you still live at home with your mama? You need to get your own place. You need to buy your own house. You got a job, you got your degree, no, man, we got to get back to doing things that are smart. So imagine if you stay home with Big Mama and Big Mama has no mortgage. So you take all of the money that you make because of your degree, you're making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. You take that and you say, Big Mama, here's what we're going to do. I got all the bills in the house. You did your job by paying off your mortgage. You paid off your car. So I got all the bills. So the light, gas, electric, the lawn service, I got all of that. But I want you to take the money that you was using to do that, and I want you to buy income producing assets. And then guess what? The money that I'm saving, that $1,000, that $2,000 a month that I'm saving, where I could be using to spend on my own mortgage, I'm going to take that $2,000 a month and I'm going to buy income producing assets with it as well. And then, Big Mama, when I do feel that my family starts to grow and I need my own space, because I'm saving that $2,000 a month, I'm investing in income producing assets. When the time comes, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy me a little shack, because it's better to own a shack than it is to rent a mansion. It's better to own a shack than it is to rent a mansion. So I'm going to go and buy me a little shack for $10,000, $12,000, a little fixer upper, right? Because I have that in my savings. I have that in my emergency fund. I'm saving for that. So I'm going to buy that. So I own my house outright, but I still need to stay with you after I buy it for another couple years while I slowly fix it up. And by the time I have my first kid, I have a small 2-bedroom bungalow that's completely paid for, that's refurbished inside and out. And I'm going to move out of your house and I'm going to live there because my kids need the space and we don't want to bother you. But we're still going to be over every week for Sunday dinner. We're still going to be over 2-3 times a day so you can tell stories to the kids. See, family over everything, ownership over everything else. There was a time we made moves like that, and that was celebrated. That was celebrated. Now what's celebrated? Me going to get a $250,000 mortgage for a Cracker Jack box house that is literally on top of the neighbor's house. That's what's celebrated today. I would go get a $250,000 mortgage on a little Cracker Jack box house that's literally stacked on top of the neighbor's house. There's not even a gangway between the two houses, right? So I'm getting a lot of wood and drywall, no land, for a little Cracker Jack house for $250,000. When if I wanted to leverage $250,000, I could do two things. $250,000 can buy me 100 acres of raw land. See, but because we don't study ownership, because we're caught up in this fantasy world, we're caught up in this matrix, we can't even see that everything that we need comes from the land. We're so detached from nature, it's pathetic. We can't even see that everything that we need comes from the land. So you would say, well, is it smart to get a mortgage or to borrow money to buy 250,000 to buy 200 acres and land for $250,000? Yeah, it's smart. Why? Because if I go buy, I don't care where I buy it at. If I go buy 200, 300, 400 acres of raw land, I could trip and fall over $200,000 worth of value within the first 10 acres. But we don't understand where real wealth comes from. We don't understand that with 200 acres of raw land, I can just go and start digging somewhere and find $250,000. I can cut down $250,000 worth of trees, sell that to a lumber company, and pay off that mortgage. but we don't understand real value. We don't even realize that all things come from the earth. True, zero lot homes. Exactly. That's exactly what they are, zero lot homes. You get no land, no nothing. You just get a box and your neighbor's box. You can thump a booger and it'll fall on your neighbor's house. So we got to understand the family over everything, ownership over everything else. I talked about this yesterday, man. How confident and how secure and how grounded do you have to be if you're the black brothers who founded Bevel, the shaving company, to turn down $1.5 billion from Gillette? Talk about somebody who's grounded. Talk about somebody who knows the power of ownership. 1.5 billion. Who walks away from that? Somebody who is extremely grounded, right? So I'm gonna get to I'm gonna read a little bit of this article that I was checking out. This is Black Enterprise Magazine, and the title of the article is African American Wealth Gap Quadruples. African American Wealth Gap Quadruples, right? Quadruples. So I'm just gonna read one little paragraph. Let's see, maybe two. It says, over the 23 years of the detailed study, the racial gap increased by $75,000 from $20,000 to $95,000, according to the analyst. Financial assets, excluding home equity, among white families grew from 22,000 to 100,000. During that period, while African Americans saw very little increase in assets in real dollars and had a median wealth of $5,000 in 2007. So what is wealth again? It is what you own minus what you have. See, a lot of us think what we have equals the wealth. No, what you own minus what you have, right? It says 1 in 10 African Americans owed at least $3,600 in 2007, nearly doubling their debt burden in real terms since 1984. So since 84, we doubled our debt. We got deeper in debt from 84 to 2007. So the center also found that by 2007, the average middle income white household had accumulated $74,000 in wealth. That's a $55,000 increase over 23 years. The average high income, so they're comparing high income black families to middle income white family. The average high income black family owned $18,000 in 84, and that dropped to $7,000 in 2007. Are y'all listen? I don't know if y'all getting this. The average middle income white family increased their wealth by $55,000. The average high income black family wealth decreased from $18,000 to $7,000, $11,000 decrease. The result in a wealth gap of $56,000 for an African American family that earned more than $50,000 in 1984 compared to a white family earning about $30,000 that same year. So they're comparing a $30,000 income family versus a $50,000 income family, white family versus black family. The black family dropped $11,000 in wealth over that time period. The white family gained $55,000 in wealth. How does that happen? How does that happen? We know good and doggone well how that happens, because we like to play the consumption game. We like to play the comparison game. Every time our income increases, so does our lifestyle. So does our lifestyle. Every time our income increases, so does our lifestyle. See, generations before us understood emphatically the power of living below our means. Living below our means. but we live above our means all the time. So you have to understand family over everything, ownership over everything else. Family over everything, ownership over everything else, man. We've got to get back to the family structure being solid, and then using our dollars to own things and not buy and consume things. Right? Using our dollars to own things and not buy and consume things, starting with land. If land is the place from which all things come, then why the heck don't we own any land? Right? Stop listening to what the media says the American dream is. The American dream is not to go mortgage a house. See, here's, I keep telling you, I study wealthy people. Wealthy people do not use their money or their labor to buy junk. Wealthy people do not use their money or their labor to buy junk. And when I say labor, wealthy people understand that if I'm using my labor to get money to buy something, I'm really buying this with my time. And my time is too valuable to trade my time for dollars, then to take those dollars and buy some junk, man. So I posted a meme the other day. Somebody put on my timeline or shared on their timeline what they got for Christmas. Michael Kors bag, Michael Kors wallet. Now, I don't know what Michael Kors stuff costs, but I know it's expensive, right? So I edited that photo and said, how many shares of stock could we buy for the price of this here set? Michael Kors stock is trading at about 52 bucks, 42 bucks or something like that. So if you pay $500 for that set, how many shares of stock could you have gotten for that $500? But we're not thinking about ownership. So whoever purchased that, I guarantee you they didn't purchase it with an asset. They purchased it with money they got from their labor. So they really purchased that with their time, is what they're saying. I gave, so if I make $10 an hour, right, it'll take me 100 hours. No, let's see, 10 times 5 is 50. 10 times 100. No, let me see how I'm gonna do this. If I make $10 an hour and work 80 hours and work 8 hours a day, that's $80 a day. So I have to work 6 days, right, to make $500. So I'm really not giving $500 over to buy this purse. I'm really giving 6 days of my time, right? I'm giving 6 days of my time, or 6 times 10, 60 hours, because you don't work 8 hours. You own your job 8 hours, but you actually take an hour to prepare and get there, and take an hour to get home and unwind and relax, and probably use some of that time to get ready for the next day. So instead of looking at it like I paid $500 for this bag, look at it like I paid 60 hours for this bag. I paid 60 hours of my life for a damn purse. You guys get that? And then I'm probably going to go to the grocery store and pull an EBT card out of this purse to buy my groceries. We sick, man. We sick. And what is the first thing you have to do when you admit and when you realize you're sick? In order to get help, you have to first admit that you're sick, right? I'm Cortez Springer, and I'm a mass consumer, right? Say it with me. I'm Cortez Springer. Put your name in. I'm Cortez Springer, and I'm a mass consumer. And I'm at Mass Consumers Anonymous because I want to get out of this mass consumption mode and get into ownership mode. If we don't do that, and the reason we don't do that is because we don't put family over everything. We say we do. And we say, I love my kid to death. That's why my newborn got polo onesies and Jordans on their feet at 6 months. Please. 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 At 6 months, your baby don't even need no shoes. I'm with you, Harvey. Harvey said, I'm Harvey Price and I'm a mass consumer. If we don't admit that we're sick, we will never accept the help that we need to overcome that sickness. So who else is with me? I'm Cortez Springer and I'm a mass consumer. When we get over that, then we can make some changes to becoming getting out of mass consumption mode and into ownership mode. You got to be able to admit that to yourself first and then make some changes. 6-month-old baby, you guys realize my generation and the generation before that, at 6 months old, they didn't waste money on shoes for a 6-month-old. You got your first pair of shoes when you were ready to start taking your first steps. Charles, that's where it begins, man. When we can admit that, then we can seek the help that we need to change that. So 6 months old, your baby has on a Ralph Lauren onesie that you paid $30 or $40 for. Your baby has on some Jordans or some LeBrons or some KDs or something that you paid another $40 for. Your baby has on a little beanie that's also Ralph Lauren that you paid another $40 or $50 for, right? So we're at almost $100. I would say take that same $100 and Nike stock is trading at like $52, $53. Take that same $100, go buy that same baby 2 shares of Nike stock. And by the time that baby, and if you did that as often as you wanted to buy Nike, the Jordans for the baby, as often as you wanted to buy the Ralph Lauren for the baby, and you bought Ralph Lauren stock instead, by the time that baby is 18, they'd be a millionaire. Problem solved. By the time the baby is 18. Problem solved. We literally wore no shoes until it was time for us to start walking. Lakeisha, I'm with you. I'm a mass consumer. And the part that we don't realize is, do you guys realize how, and this is why the women are so important, and fellas, this is why we got to back our sisters and we got to come back home, man. We got to stop playing the game. This is why family is so important. You know when they brought us over here as slaves, and we can talk about that another time, because they didn't bring hundreds of thousands of people over here as slaves. Let's be clear on that. Let's be clear on that. There were millions of people here. So why would you bring over another 100,000 people, another million people? That don't make sense. They took the people who were already here. The people who are already here became the slaves of this country. I just want y'all to be clear on that, right? But anyway, the way they break the slaves, so yes, they could beat the man and all that kind of stuff and break them down, but the way you get to a nation is through the woman. The way you get to any nation is through the woman. Yes, you have to go through the man to get to her when she's protected, when the man is protecting the woman, right? But when the man doesn't know what he's protecting, then sometimes he will give up before he dies. See, in other cultures, they understand the value of the woman and they protect that value with their lives. So in order for you to get my woman, you have to kill me, because her life is 10 times more valuable than my life, because she's the one that brings forth life and allows my seed to continue. But we don't understand that. So they were able to beat the man enough to get him to step aside so they can get to the woman. Why is it important to get to the woman? Because if you get to the woman and you can break her down, then she will train the children. If you can get to the woman and break her down, she trains the children. Because she didn't want to see her son get beat the way that she saw her man get beat, she trained her son to be obedient to master. When her son had everything in him at 7, 8, 9 years old, said, "Mama, if they're gonna keep coming after you, they gotta kill me too, just like they gotta kill daddy." And guess what? A plantation can't work with a army of female slaves. I'm just saying. So we have to understand the power of our women, and we have to come back home, fellas, and protect them with everything that we have, so that she can go back to guarding her mind and training the children the way the children should be trained. See, right now, who's the breadwinners in this country? It's the Black woman. And because the Black woman is flying solo, a lot of times she's doing everything she can to shower her babies with love, but she's training her babies to become mass consumers like her. And I don't want y'all to take this the wrong way, but sisters, how much money are y'all spending on eyelashes, fake hair, makeup, all of that stuff? And you don't own a single share in any of these companies. You don't own a single share of stock in any of these companies that you're spending thousands of dollars with every year. And I'm not getting on the whether or not women should wear makeup, whether or not they should be pressing their hair and all that. I'm just saying the amount of money that you spend because you're caught up in this delusion of what somebody else says beauty looks like, then that's causing that same money you could be using to get yourself out of debt. That same money you could be using to build wealth with. That same money you could be using to save up so you can buy that shack. That same money, right? And fellas, we do the same thing. It's just not makeup, it's cars. For some of us, it's clothes, right? For some of us, it's rims, right? For some of us, it's fellas. Let me talk to some of my fellas right quick, because I know guys who do this dumb stuff. If my goal is to get buzzed, that's my goal, is to get buzzed. Now I don't drink anymore. I'm what is it, 2016, almost 2016. I'm 15 years clean and sober. But if my goal was to get buzzed, and that's the ultimate goal, doesn't really care if I get buzzed on a $1.99 vodka or a $39.99 vodka. Does it really matter? If my goal is to get buzzed, does it matter if I get buzzed on a $1.99 white top or I get buzzed on a $39.99 Belvedere? Doesn't really matter. But the $1.99 white top doesn't give me the same appearance of status that the Belvedere gives me. So I opt for the Belvedere. And you don't own a single share in the company that makes Belvedere. I'm just saying, y'all, we've got to start thinking family over everything, ownership over everything else. That means my whole focus is to tighten down this family, because here's what happens. You tighten down the family and you start owning, and your children start getting that mindset, then they start looking at their relationships. And because I'm no longer a mass consumer, I don't hang out with mass consumers. So if I don't hang out with mass consumers, I'm less likely to marry one. Y'all didn't hear me. When I have this ownership down, when I have this family down, and I know I can't own unless I get my family tight, right? When I have this family tight and ownership over everything else, and I get out of mass consumption and I stop hanging around with mass consumers, I'm less likely to marry one. So sometimes we're going to start building this empire, but then we're going to go marry somebody whose mind isn't right, and they can they can tear down the empire from inside out. See, when family is over everything, then you start protecting your family name, and you start looking at your relationships. And sisters, I know you have a tough time finding compatible mates, because brothers are in jail, brothers are still running the streets at 40 with 2 braids down the side because all this is gone. I know it's tough. It's tough. And I'm not discounting that for 1 minute, but I'm just saying that if that brother ain't ready to put family over everything and ownership over everything else, don't let him walk into your life and jack your credit up and spend your money and wear you down. See, and where I come from, they have a saying, and I think this was MC8 back in the Minister Society days. The hood took you under, right? The hood took you under. Well, guess what? There's a lot of brothers. I see a lot of brothers taking these sisters under. This dude ain't got no job. He ain't got no ride. So he ain't got no house. So he's in your car, dropping you off at work every day. He runs all the gas out in your car, comes to pick you up so you can put more gas in the car, take you back to your place where y'all shack up. Right? And while you're gone, ain't no telling how many other women he had running through your house. Right? Fellas, we got to come back home so we can start raising men for the daughters of these sisters out here who are helping these young ladies get educated, who are helping these young ladies start to understand what's really happening in this world. We got to start raising some men for these young ladies, and we got to start being men for the women in this generation. It's the truth, Bless. It's the truth, man. It's the truth. That's what it is, man. And this is the game they play. And you know what they say? Don't ask me how I know, but you know what they say? I'm gonna go find me one with a good job, nice car, their own place, and low self-esteem. I'm gonna go find me one with a good job, nice place, decent ride, and low self-esteem. Low self-esteem got to be there, because the only way you deal with a man who is nothing, a fart boy. I want to call him another boy, but my wife said I got to stop cussing on the stream, right? The only way that you are on your way up and you will slow down your momentum to deal with a fart boy is if you have low self-esteem. Brothers are saying, sitting back saying, if I can just keep my haircut for 3 or 4 weeks straight, if I found enough money to keep my haircut for 3 or 4 weeks straight, if I found enough money if I hustle up on enough money, get me 4, 5, maybe 6 decent outfits. If I find enough money to get me a pair of Timbs and a pair of J's, so I can switch it up, I can put on this facade, I can look good, I can smell good, don't have nothing to offer a woman. But if I can look good, smell good, find me one with a good job, decent car, their own place, and low self-esteem, I'm in. I'm winning. I'm winning. And that's what's happening to you sisters. And that's who you're dealing with. But on the other side of town, there's a brother that you walk past every day. He's a little beat up, shoes a little ran over, hands dirty. You know why his hands dirty? You know why his shoes are beat up? Because he working. He working. You know why he's straggly at the face? Because he don't have 4 hours on a Saturday to go spend in no damn barbershop, because he working. That's the brother you ain't seeing. When I was a hip hop artist some 20 years ago, I would wear these raggedy old boots and these tore down these raggedy threads, and people would say all the time, "Man, you look a hot mess. How you gonna pick somebody up like that?" Homosexual. How you gonna pick up somebody like that? And my response is this: if the woman who's interested in me can't see these boots and these hands symbolize a hardworking man, that ain't the woman for me. Because she obviously don't want a hardworking man. Obviously. So we've got to get back to family over everything. And I know a lot of the brothers in these streets talking about that's their family. No, man, take your ass home to your lady, to your children, and build a solid foundation there. Stop this playing these games, man. You're too old for that. You're too old for that. Take your butt home and build your family with one woman and keep it 100. Now, and if you want to build your family with more than one woman, keep that 100. Go ahead and pull a brother polite. Get you 4, 5 wives. But when you're playing that game, understand something. There's one thing that I respect about the brother. I'm not with the 4 or 5 wives thing, but he has contracts with all of his wives. They say, if this don't work out, here's the assets that you're going to get in the event of my demise, or in the event that this whole thing just don't work out. You see that? So when they come to the table and form this bond, it's a partnership, it's a business deal. And say, yes, you're going to be one of my wives, but here's what belongs to you as a result of. In conjunction, here's what you have access to while we're together. But if this thing don't work out and you say, man, I can't deal with your other 3 wives, right? And you want to break camp, here's what you get if you should decide to break camp. So ladies, if the fellas ain't coming correct and talking about building a family long term, right? And you got to give it time to develop. So don't give up the cookies too early. And you have to at least be with your guy long enough to see who he is when he's really, really sad. You got to be with him long enough to see who he is when he's really, really mad. And you got to be with him long enough to see who he is when he's really, really happy. Because those are the 3 things that will make or break a marriage. Those are the 3 things that will make or break a relationship. If who he is when he's really, really sad, he falls into a deep depression for weeks on end, you have to know that so you can understand whether or not you want to stick around and deal with that. If who he is when he's really, really mad, he becomes violent, you need to know that before you fall in love with him. If who he is when he becomes really, really happy, he gets really touchy-feely with every woman he sees, you need to know that too before you fall in love with him. Right? But we know that women are so messed up that we can get y'all to fall in love in 6 weeks. And when you discover all of that bad after the 6 weeks, now because you're falling in love, by nature, you're extremely loyal. So you'll put up with all the BS for years on end because of your natural loyalty once you have fallen in love, because you intrinsically know that giving of yourself every time you lay with a man, you're giving of yourself, and you don't want to give pieces of yourself to all of these different guys. So you're trying to just stick it out with one because you know that intrinsically. And that's what the love thing really is, that the attachment to when that man puts his fluid in you and you guys exchange fluids, you become part of him, he becomes part of you, but your attachment is still there. My attachment is not there because I was part of breeding farms and things as slaves. So I was able, my attachment to you was broken because I was forced to bastard all of these different children as a slave. Inspect before you expect. Dr. G. Davis. Yep. So women still have that one deal, because even with the breeding farms, they would see a woman who was strong and had everything that they need, and they would see a buck, what they would call us as bucks, and they would say, okay, you and this woman make great seeds together. So they would still bring you back to the same woman time and time again, because y'all make good seeds together. But that buck also would be making great seeds with 100 other women too. So our attachment to you in that way was broken during that process. Your attachment to us was not broken. So when you fall in love within 6 weeks, you're a lifer, because it's in you to be, because you understand how to build a family and all that kind of stuff. We, on the other hand, not so much. So guys, I've got to get over to this gym, man. I said this was going to be an abbreviated show, and y'all got me going ham on all this different stuff, man. But guys, let's make that our hashtag for 2017. Family over everything, ownership over everything else. Can we agree on that? Family over everything, ownership over everything else. We have to build families, and then we have to seek ownership, and then we have to partner with families who are living that thing as well. If now, I'm telling you, I don't have friends outside of my wife and my children that aren't future millionaires and billionaires. If you don't understand family and you don't understand ownership, you can't get in my circle. Right? Make me think about Meet the Fockers. Right? You can't get in my circle if you don't understand family and you don't understand ownership. Because here's what happens. Here's what happens. When you don't understand family, and I'm building a family, and I let you in my circle, you don't understand family, so you're going to start pulling or attempting to pull me away from family. See, because I understand family, and the friends that I do have families, I'm never trying to pull them away from family. I'm trying to say, what are you and your family doing today, and can me and my family be included? What are you and your family doing today, and can me and my family come hang? Because we both value family. And because we both value family, then when my children come around your children, they are around, they're constantly around people who value family. Same way with my business. I don't deal with nobody who's not building an empire. If you're broke-minded, poverty conscious, I can't bring my family around you. I can't bring my kids around you, because you're going to pull away from what I'm trying to put in. If I'm trying to get my children out of consumerism, and when I bring them around your children, all your children is talking about is Lucky Brand and the true religions and all that kind of stuff. Now you're messing with what I'm doing. But if you are trying to get out of consumerism, and I bring my children around you, now my children have somebody to lean on. When they say, man, it sucks, I can't get the new J's. Your children can say, yeah, it sucks, I can't get them either, but we understand that we're trying to build something, so it's going to be worth it in 10 or 15 years. Versus letting them hang with the other children who are into all of that consumerism stuff. Now they're going to be made to, the other children may belittle them because they can't get the J's. Right? And that's a whole nother issue that I have to deal with. So when you're starting to build, you start to change your mindset. It's important that you change your atmosphere. It's important that you change your associations. It's important that you batten down. You reduce the size of that circle, because you don't want that hard work. And I'll give you this one story, and I'll get out of here. I have 5 sons myself, right? My older 2 sons I met when they were 2 and 4. My wife had children from another relationship, and then we had 3 more. So we had a total of 5 sons that I've raised. I also helped raise a nephew and a cousin, right? My nephew, we was trying to do it on a weekend basis. That means he would come over to our house for the weekend. He would spend the weekend with us, because the mom would claim that, hey, he needs a strong male figure in his life. You know, my brother, his father was killed at 18. So he didn't have a dad, and so his mom would say that he needed a male figure. So she would let him come stay with us on the weekends, but then he would go back home during the week. So my 2 days of picking him up, have him stand up straight, chin up high, speak with authority, everything that a man should be, I'm giving him 2 days of that. And then he's going back to her getting 5 days of something else. Just wouldn't work. Just wouldn't work. Same with your children. Same with your family. If you are building a tight bond, you're trying to build a tight family, trying to build a close family, then look at other close families. Look at other people who are building and valuing family over everything. And then you look at the families who are valuing ownership over everything. And you say, okay, this is a model family. This is a family that I can probably relate to. I can probably spend some time to because our values align. And that might mean that some of the families that you've been growing up with over the last 15, 20 years, you might have to spend less time there. Might have to spend less time there. Because how much paint does it take to cover a black wall versus how much black paint does it take to cover a white wall? See, if you're trying to go in this direction and they are going in this direction, it takes much, 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 much more for you to get them to turn around and go in this direction than it will to get you to turn around and go in their direction. So you have to guard your eye gate, your ear gate. You have to understand who you're around and how they're affecting you, your children, your DNA, all of that stuff, man. This stuff goes really, really deep. So with that, guys, I'm going to cut it off right there. And I forgot to mention my sponsor for today. Today's show is sponsored by Bedrock Assurance. My man, Eric Pierre, is a certified CPA, and he does personal taxes, corporate taxes. It doesn't really matter. Corporate structure, year-round tax services, year-round bookkeeping for your business. If you need a good tax accountant, then I want you to go to facebook.com/your favorite CPA. Bedrock Assurance is the sponsor for today's show. Eric Pierre, if you send him a friend request and say, hey, I learned about you on Talking Money in the Morning Live with H Cortez, he's going to say wonderful, and he's going to probably offer you a discount for mentioning Financial Health Mentor or Talking Money in the Morning. If the people around you haven't changed, then you need to change the people around you. Yep, exactly right. Exactly right. When you can't change the people around you, change the people around you. Thank you for that, Harvey. So the mindset has to change. Family over everything, ownership over everything else. If we adopt that as a nation of black people in this nation, then the nation of black people around the world will change forever. I promise you that. Family over everything, ownership over everything else. I'm your man, H Cortez, financial health mentor to the working class. Until I talk to you guys tomorrow on Free Game Friday, where we do live Q&A, I want you guys to get your money up because you absolutely can do it. Peace out, people.